Sometimes I think that people ought to be more proudful of their culture, proudful of their skills that pass from generation to generation. They ought to be proudful and protective of this heritage, regardless of what economy says, regardless of what you are taught in school. That could become the matrix job, right? But there's another occupation, something that you inherit. It can be working as a farmer, it can be working as a carpenter, it can be anything. And that was probably very successful in the past. You know, these types of jobs, these artisan jobs. Well, now with globalization, it's not profitable anymore. You go to IKEA and you buy furniture a lot cheaper and super fast, right? But that doesn't mean you should stop that skill. In your free time, you should continue that skill of carpentry, of agriculture, or whatever. You know, you should continue and then pass it to the next generations. Around here, it's a very rural area, and as the old people, start dying away, nobody is taking care of the land. Our local shop of agriculture stuff is getting it's getting very difficult to get, for instance, grains, because the locals are dying away and nobody is, creating anything. Yes, it's not profitable, right? But it's a skill. Yeah, it's a skill to do agriculture. It's not that difficult, by the way, but people don't do it. They actually laugh at anyone who continues doing it. Like, look at this guy, he's wasting his time. I mean, he doesn't win any money out of it. You better ought to, spend that time doing something else and then buy the material, buy the grains, and even, make up tons of money in the process. But that's not the point. The point is that agriculture, growing all these grains is part of culture. It's part of your skills, of your heritage. And those fields is where your grandparents worked. That's how they got sustenance from. Out of respect and pride, you should keep the tradition alive, even though it's not economical profitable. Who cares about economy? In some places, when the European Union, started their operation, they paid people to not to work. Don't work agriculture. We'll pay a salary so you can be at home doing nothing. Of course, the next generations was not going to be paid, right? But the previous, they did nothing. They wanted to kill the tradition, to stop the tradition. And that I despise. I despise these technocrats, these bureaucrats that come and say, oh no, we're going to import this skill, this tradition that you had is no longer important. You can have a mainstream job, and as a hobby, you ought to continue carpentry. You ought to continue, I don't know, farming or ceramic or whatever it is. Has a hobby and has a tradition. Don't let the tradition die. Those skills are very important. We end up in a situation, for instance, industry. Industry used to be the peak of human engineering, now not so. Everything is the same. Everything has become downgraded. The materials are extremely bad. It's not meant to last. Everything is standardized, and it's not meant to last. The pinnacle that used to be good materials coming out of Europe has been displaced elsewhere, losing the know-how, the skills. It takes generations to, teach those skills. Now the products come from wherever they come from, and they are extremely mediocre. They don't last very long, and they look the same, quality-wise. That's what tyrannical regimes create. Sameness. Everything is the same. It doesn't matter if you have money. For instance, cars. Cars are all the same. They have become downgraded. Cars are mediocre. Extremely mediocre. It's unbelievable. The best brands out there are now the worst because factories have been relocated elsewhere and the product has been mediocredized. Now it's downgraded, I suppose there's still one brand of cars that lives up to its reputation. I think it's Toyota, but the rest, they are all the same. They are all the same. And that's what tyrannical regimes create, sameness. The schooling system, for instance, people come out thinking the same. Everywhere in the world, in the Western world at least, everybody thinks the same. They might look different, from different backgrounds, from different societies, cultures, but they all think the same. That's what regimes could create, sameness and mediocrity. So anyway, it's getting difficult to find grains. The old people are dying away. If you have some chickens or you require some grains, but the old people, are dying away, and the local shop here is struggling to find, grains to sell to the public. Even though it's not economically profitable, people should not stop doing it. Besides, working with your body, with your hands, in farming or building, or it rejuvenates the body and the spirit. It's the best therapy in the world. It's to do some gardening, or to, do some carpentry, or get some firewood together, do something physical, move around and plan things and execute them. It's the best exercise, it's the best therapy. You don't need gyms or therapy. It's good for the body and the spirit, doing those things. I'm going to read some notes that I took. Our brain is capable of managing up to 300 peoples. Yes. Names. You can memorize up to 300 people names. Well, sometimes it could be more. It depends on the person. Sometimes it can be less. I bet there are some people who can memorize more than 300 names, faces. They even can memorize their family relatives. They even can memorize their expressions, their body expressions from far away, the way they move, and they can deduce who it is. When it gets above 300 people, our brain just becomes overwhelmed. In 300 people or below societies, in small villages, behavior is carefully, quote unquote, policed. Everybody knows each other. Everybody remembers each other. Everybody holds everybody accountable. In these places, there's no need for prisons. There's no need for policemen. And above all, there's no need for politicians. Politicians exist because they promise to handle the situation when population grows beyond 300. It's just overwhelming to the common person, taking care of so many names, and it's just too much. So politicians come along with some nice marketing, they convince people that tyranny feels like freedom. And this tyranny, this democracy, they call it, feels like freedom, which is in fact tyranny in disguise. Democracy creates leaders who are good at winning elections, but they are not good at fixing problems, are they? When they get elected, in fact, they do the opposite of everything they promised. In cities, no one knows each other, even neighbors. In fact, if you want to know a little bit more about your neighbor, he'll probably accuse you of harassment. It's not caring and not worrying about accountability, for instance, that gives birth to systematic pathological behavior. Where is the police when we need it? Well, if you call the police when someone becomes antisocial, and antisocial is lying, stealing, etc., and they call the police will go and do their investigation, and with a bit of luck, it is the person who called the police that gets arrested. These investigations often lead nowhere. And when someone gets suspected, it becomes then a game of power. Those with power will definitely avoid accountability. Cities are breeding grounds for proto-psychopaths, meaning normal people that eventually, through socialization, they emulate the behavior of a psychopath. This system also overwhelms its population with too many options. There's always dozens of, this is an illusion, of course, because whatever you choose is going to lead exactly to a place that they have thought of, They want you to have many options as possible because it causes information overload. Making good decisions seem to be very difficult. It becomes very difficult to make good decisions when you have too many options. So anyway, I don't like cities. Cities are filthy. And people's behavior is just, impossible. It's very common. People do social experiences, someone, faking, a heart attack or something. And people just stand. They just stand and look. They take out their phone and start recording, It's crazy. Nobody gives a shit.